What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome on in. It's 1TS Daily right here at One True Sport. I'm your host, Zack Heydorn from Brass Ring Media. As you know, on Tuesdays, I like to get out of the old home office. I'm downtown Chicago in a very, very tall skyscraper right on Michigan Avenue. So right in the heart of the city. It's raining outside though. So normally, I'd be outside for this show. I like to show the sights of the city, but it's raining. So we're inside today. But welcome on in. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you joining me today. We've got a ton to discuss. I mean, normally we have a ton to discuss on Tuesdays with Monday Night Raw, but boy, this show is going to be even more busy than usual. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. If you don't mind, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps us out so much to get this show rolling and grow One True Sport, grow 1TS Daily. Gosh, this is such a fun show for me to do. I love it. I love hanging out with you guys. So hit like so we can keep this thing moving and grooving. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for that as well. Appreciate it. It is paramount to get eyeballs in different parts of the internet and the wrestling ecosystem. So thank you for joining us on Twitter if you're doing that. And then of course, if you are a One True Sport member, appreciate you. And if you're listening to this as an audio podcast, thank you for that. And thank you for your membership. If you want to learn more about One True Sport membership, head to onetruesport.com right away. Right now, we got 3 different membership tiers, all sorts of different price points, but full access to the slate of One True Sport stuff that we do. And that includes access to some of the biggest stars in professional wrestling. Arn Anderson, Medusa, RVD, Kurt Angle, right? I mean, you want that access, and it's all there for you at onetruesports.com. I'll get into my shop, Brass Ring Media, a little bit later, but let's dive in. Well, first, let's jump into the live chat here. We got some people joining us. Thanks so much if you are in the live chat. Mr. Skinny says, salute. What's up, Mr. Skinny? Thanks so much for being here, man. Appreciate you being here live. Michael is there. It says, interesting. Does that mean you're checking out the show for the first time, Michael? Does it? Hopefully. And if it does, thank you so much for being here. Let's start with Vince McMahon and the Vince McMahon Netflix documentary that is set to be released tomorrow. It's coming. It's coming quick. It's going to be on Netflix. And yesterday, Vince McMahon released a long statement, very PR-driven statement. It seemed like something that an attorney would come up with, and it's up on my Twitter feed, so I'm not going to read it all to you right here, but you can find it at Zack_Heydorn. And it basically exists to get ahead of whatever is going to be presented in the Netflix documentary that starts tomorrow and drops tomorrow on Netflix. This is Vince working to control the narrative. I'm paraphrasing here. He says, there's 2 sides to every story, and that's the gist. And so, of course, this is concerning his fall from grace as chairman of the board in WWE, and the sexual assault allegations against him, and everything else that has come out with the Janelle Grant lawsuit that she's filed, and she's been steadfast in maintaining her accusations on Vince. This statement seems to get ahead of that. So it's clear that Vince and his team have seen the documentary. It's clear that there's stuff in there that they don't like. And it's clear that they don't agree with the narrative or the picture that's painted of Vince throughout this documentary, hence the statement. Now, there's a couple different ways I think you could look at this. The first being, and I've gotten a lot of this and have had some conversations with folks about this, is that Vince McMahon putting out a statement like that is pretty much the best marketing you can get for the documentary. So the conspiracy theorists out there would say, of course, Vince is going to put out a statement like that. It gives people, a lot of interest and intrigue to watch this if he is putting out a statement in defiance of it. And to that, I'd say, to what end? Like, what is the purpose of that? He doesn't work for WWE anymore. He doesn't have anything to do with with the WWE or TKO group. He's not involved with the company. So, like, does he care if Netflix gets a lot of viewership for this? I think Vince's ego does, and we know he has a big ego. I think he, of course, wants people to watch, but not for this reason, right? So I get why you'd say that. I get why you'd say that you'd want, or that you think like, hey, look, this is just a ploy to get people to watch. And frankly, yes, it will, but again, there's no real business reason why Vince would benefit from having extra eyes on the product at the expense of his whole life story and narrative and presentation. It's just that part of it doesn't add up. The other just key part of this statement by Vince McMahon is that this is a production that WWE has a lot of influence in, directly or indirectly. It's produced by The Ringer, and WWE has a very good working relationship with The Ringer, no question about it. And so I find it's interesting that they're clearly going to take this documentary places that I don't think WWE usually goes. I mean, they're they as a company, historically, they've tried to, just repaint all the pictures to make it look like they're great, right? That's what they do. A lot of these documentaries that they put out, even the ones on Peacock, even the ones on on A&E, they work hard to paint the subjects in a positive light in the end. Yes, they tell a story. Yes, they tap into and kind of like dip their toe into some of the rough narratives around some of the people and subjects they cover, but they don't typically go deep. And to me, with Vince making this statement, it's clear WWE has decided they're taking this thing deep, and they're going to tell at least part of the downfall of Vince McMahon, why it happened, and and the people involved with that. I don't think WWE is doing this in a completely self-serving way. To me, this is an opportunity for them to just rid themselves of Vince McMahon once and for all. Like, hey, okay, we're going to do this. Not only is it going to get us good press because people are going to watch the documentary, not only is it going to get us good press because we quote unquote greenlit a true documentary about a key figure in the company, Vince McMahon, and we're going to tell his story truthfully and fully. But it also benefits them because they get to do this. They get the pros that come with each of those things, and then they get to just cast Vince McMahon aside. So I think all of this is still self-serving WWE as well. So it's going to be really interesting. We will at Brass Ring Media, we're going to cover the entire series in long form, like we do everything. So Brass Ring Media is my shop. I got a great team over there. We are live on YouTube every single day, so you can check us out there. Subscribe on YouTube if you don't. If you want to catch some of that, we are going to cover all the episodes there live, and we'll touch on them here too. but just won't be able to do it in a long form manner just because of the time restrictions here. But at Brass Ring Media, we go long. So check us out there if you want to hear reviews of each episode, breaking down, those episodes. You definitely want to check that out. So jump in and subscribe on YouTube. We'll also have some written content up about it on our Substack newsletter as well. Brass Ring Media Substack is the best way to find that. Cool. Jump in. That's our shop. That's my shop. That's where you can find the majority of my work. Brass Ring Media on Substack, totally free. Brass Ring Media on YouTube, totally free. Cool. Thank you. The boss is in the chat. He goes, yeet. I love it. We'll get to Jey Uso here in a second. Tim Hayes has a pretty interesting comment here. Tim says either Vince's money has no power and he wants to stop stuff he said, or he is just spinning PR about it yet again. I do not think he knows how to live outside of pro wrestling. Well, yeah, man. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, Tim. I mean, Vince and what I think this documentary is going to show, in addition to, telling his life story and the end of his career, but it's going to show a guy that is obsessed with the business, is obsessed with WWE. He lives for that. I don't think that I'm not breaking any news in saying that. And I think the documentary is obviously going to show that in a big way. But yeah, I think you're right. I just don't get why he'd want to spin PR, for this. Yes, he's, like I said, he's got an ego to satiate. There's no question about it. But if he saw the documentary and it's as bad as he made it seem in that statement for him, to me, that's not something you spin, PR about in terms of promotion. He could be spinning PR to save face. I think that's more what it is. I think he could be spinning PR so he's okay from a legal perspective, or at least as protected as possible from a legal perspective. But other than that, there's no benefit for him to do that. Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it. Hopefully you're able to check out the show live more often. Tim follows up here and says he still considers WWE his, and like his property, still wants it to thrive, even if he isn't a part of it. Just a hunch. I mean, hey, maybe. I mean, look, maybe that's the case. I don't know. He's a petty guy, I mean, he's a petty man. And I don't, even for a company that he built, I just don't think that he's inclined to help them out at his own expense, which is what this would be. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. We get to see the documentary starting tomorrow, and it's going to be interesting just how deep they go and what the tone is and what the narrative is. It'll be really interesting to watch that. He says here, he's more corporate minded than any of us could be. He's had decades to do it. Thank you. Yeah, Tim, appreciate you, man. Thanks for all the comments. Hassan is in here. Hassan says, hi there. What's up, man? Hopefully you can, hopefully you're enjoying the show, and hopefully if you have comments or questions, drop them in. We'll answer all questions that come in the live chat here, and we will also answer any super chat questions and comments too. Super chats are open if you're able to drop a contribution. Certainly helps me out, helps the show out, helps the brand. Thank you. And thanks, Hassan, for tuning in. Hopefully all you guys, some new faces here in the live chat. I love it. It's so fun. Thank you so much. The other bit of news surrounding Vince McMahon and this documentary this morning comes from Puck. And I saw this on WrestleNomics this morning. Vince McMahon reportedly, according to the Puck report, tried to buy the rights to this Netflix documentary series. I think that is also very telling, in the same vein as we discussed before, or as we just discussed. The Vince is trying to get ahead of this, and he wanted to make sure. I don't think this Netflix documentary would have seen the light of day had Vince got his hands on it and had Vince got ownership of it. I just don't think that would be in the cards. And so, as much as we're debating, whether this is a PR stunt for Vince, Um, this report from Puck indicates that, hey, like it isn't. It's him trying to protect himself in the only way he knows how, which is try to get in control. And he doesn't have it here. And so, yeah, just an interesting news. You can find more about that story at WrestleNomics. I'll also put it up on my Twitter as well, Zack_Heydorn, if you want to follow me for regular pro wrestling analysis and other stuff. Would love to have you as a follower. I'll put it up there too, in case you guys want to check it out. All right, more on Vince tomorrow and the rest of this week, but WWE Raw last night. We have a new Intercontinental Champion. Jey Uso defeats Braun Breaker in the main event to win the Intercontinental title. Good. I thought it was an excellent match. I mean, it didn't have the kind of it didn't have any of like the top tier athleticism that you see from AEW. It didn't have like anything to that end. But what it had was a very, very invested audience. I mean, you had that crowd just biting on every near fall. You had them biting on every hope spot from Jey Uso. They were invested in wanting to see Jey Uso win that Intercontinental title. And that's what you want if you're WWE. I mean, you're not going to compete from an athleticism perspective with AEW when it comes to in-ring. But you can compete from a storyline perspective. And they had a good one here. They had a really good one here, and it played out really nice in the main event. Braun Breaker I think he had just one of the best near fall kickouts ever in this match. I mean, there's the moment where Jey hits the first frog splash off the top rope, and he gets the 1-2, and Breaker kicks out at like the almost 3. It was perfect, and you had that audience biting the entire time. This was great, and I thought Jey Uso winning was the right call in the end. I think Braun Breaker winning would have been a fine call too, no question about it. But the thing is, if you want people to buy into your baby faces and you want them to truly invest in those babyface characters, you got to give them something every once in a while. I mean, you really do. And this was a big moment for Jey. WWE did a wonderful job hyping and promoting this main event, not just yesterday on the show, although they did a really nice job then too. But for the last couple of weeks, they built this up and made it feel like a big deal. And if they can continue doing this with their Raw main events and SmackDown main events, I think it's going to resonate, in viewership eventually, especially when Raw goes to 2 hours and it's easier for them to hold their viewers. So this was a really good match. As for Braun Breaker, yeah, conventional wisdom says, hey, it's a curious booking decision to have him do a job this early in his title run, and really after only one other title defense. It's not conventional to have a guy you're pushing that big take a loss like this, and we'll see what they have in mind for him. I just think that he's such an important face or eventual face of the company that they have something in mind here for him. Either it's a rematch or it's an elevation. I mean, who knows? Like, look, the champions at the top of the card, the world champions, are going to need people to wrestle at some point. Gunther is going to need somebody to wrestle. Braun Breaker has teased, turning babyface. He's teased just with his mannerisms and overall demeanor and gimmick. Like he is, and with the dog bark thing that he does, like that's a babyface call to action from the crowd. So that could be a play. They want him to wrestle Gunther down the line. I mean, Cody Rhodes needs opponents, so if they do some kind of shakeup, he's going to need opponents to face. So I think Braun Breaker still has a very, very high ceiling with the company, no question. And I just don't think this hurts him. He also is protected by the match a little bit too. I mean, this is a guy who had the match won and was doing push-ups in the ring instead. So like he has something to lean on from the actual match perspective as a reason why he lost and as a way to get a potential rematch with Jey. My guess is we see that match in the very, very near future. Tim is in the chat here and says, perhaps because it's not a common thing to occur, it will end up being a critical factor in a storyline in the future. Yeah, I mean, I think it's good for the IC title that this happened. You know, coming off such a long reign with Gunther, it's like the expectation is in the back of fans' minds that these titles are going to stay around their champion's waist for a while. And I think while like overall you want that to be a strategy, you want titles to stay where they are and not hotshot them too much. At the same time, you want to make it feel like these title matches are meaningful because the title could change hands at any given time. And that is something that a match like yesterday reinforces that, hey, yeah, you got to tune in because you don't know really. You think you might know, and you're probably right 9 times out of 10, but 1 time out of 10, you don't want to miss it. And I think that's what last night shows, and that's why it's a good thing to kind of cultivate that in the minds of fans that, hey, tune in because anything can happen. And last night's is a really, really good, really good example of that. Tim says here, truth is, there's been a change in the way the show has been run. It's visible, and even the social world is beginning to sense a new wave of era coming up. Yeah, I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, Braun Breaker's a part of that. I think in a weird way, Jey Uso is a part of that too. Not in the same way as Braun because he doesn't have as much career left, but he's a new, fresh, like singles act. That's a babyface, and he's got a long way to go. I don't think he's going to be somebody that they attach the company to, but as IC champion, perfect. And so, be really interesting to see where they go. But I love the match yesterday. I thought it was a really well worked match that had the crowd, and in the end, that's the goal. That's the goal. You can have as many flips and flies and all this craziness that you want, but are people buying what you're selling? And man, they were all in for Jey yesterday, and it paid off. And they had a really cool moment at the end of the show because of it. Also on Raw last night, you had Drew McIntyre out there kind of addressing the comment that CM Punk made yesterday. I thought it was interesting to see Drew strike up a similar tone that Punk had. Punk was somber, was quiet, he was a little subdued in terms of how he spoke and the volume at which he spoke, but he got his point across that way. And he not only sold the rivalry with Drew, but man, did he sell Hell in a Cell and that stipulation and that gimmick match. Drew did the same thing this week. He took the same approach. So it's clear that they have like a defined goal in mind to repair the impact and meaning of Hell in a Cell. That stipulation has been just dragged through the mud for years now. And like in order to bring it back, you just kind of have to decide that you're going to. In order to bring the aura back and the level of danger back around that match, you kind of just have to treat it as a big deal. I mean, frankly, that's it. That's all you can do. You got to just jump, take a leap of faith, and just start it and try to repair. And I think that's what they've done here. And I think overall, they've done a pretty good job. This feels like a big deal. This feels like, a dangerous match, a dangerous environment that both guys are going into. Both guys have spoke about that. And now we're going to have the match in a couple of weeks' time. I expect we need to see a face-to-face with that at some point. No violence, just a face-to-face promo in the ring with them. I guess we're going to get that next week, but we'll have to see. And last but not least, regarding Raw, next week, big main event, last man standing, Bronson Reed against Braun Strowman. Yet again, WWE delivering a big main event match after weeks and weeks of hype. Like they're not putting it on pay-per-view. they're going to run it on Raw. And once again, I think this is a good decision, a good way to utilize kind of upper mid-card guys and get a big-time main event out of it. Last man standing match obviously plays. I think they've built up interest throughout the last couple weeks in people just seeing them battle all around the arena with crazy big spots and, dives and jumps and cars and tables and everything. Like, they cultivated a world where WWE fans want to see more of that. And they're going to get a heavy dose next week. So this is another example of them, another example of them giving like big pushes to TV main events. And again, I think it's the right way to go. We just saw them reap the benefits of that this week with Breakker and Jey Uso. Tim says here, they're putting the gas pedal down, but not flooring it. It's all moving along almost generically. As a fan, since King Harley race dominated, I'm genuinely getting interested in where it will all go now. This is a good point. Yeah, they're not. You don't get the sense that they're just putting stuff out there to put it out there. They're not like they're driving fast, but they're not driving in an uncontrolled way. They're driving fast with both hands on the wheel, making sure the car goes straight. I don't know. It's kind of a cheesy little, kind of example, but you get what I'm saying. Like, there is direction, there's strategy, there's purpose, there's focus in what they're doing, and it's manifesting itself in good shows. Not everything on Raw was great last night. I still am just confused by what Pure Fusion Collective is. There was a tease for the Viking Raiders again. I can't believe we're going down that road again with trying to rebrand and represent them. Seems just like a fool's errand at this point. The Rhea and Liv stuff I thought was excellent yesterday. Same thing with Finn and Damian Priest. Judgment Day continues to be a high point of Raw. And with it moving back to 2 hours in a couple weeks, some of this talent's going to get cut. And, you got to work hard for your time. And I think we'll see what WWE thinks of that moving forward and who keeps getting time on Raw once it gets cut to 2 hours. All right, man, we got through it. Boy, time really flies, you guys. We'll be back tomorrow, right here, 11 Eastern, 10 Central for 1TS Daily. We'll talk more news. I'm sure we'll have some reviews and initial thoughts on the Vince McMahon docuseries that we can kick around and chat about. We'll also look at NXT and see what they did tonight as well, and we'll review that show tomorrow, as well as preview AEW Dynamite Grand Slam, a big Grand Slam event at Arthur Ashe Stadium. We'll give that in AEW a lot of time tomorrow on the show, so definitely make sure you tune in 1TS Daily right here 11 Eastern. Again, check out my other work at Brass Ring Media. Brass Ring Media on YouTube, Brass Ring Media on Substack. That's our 2 free platforms. You get a lot of content every day on both. So check it out. Check it out right now. And hopefully you really enjoy it. Subscribe for free. Would love to have you guys. And thank you in advance for that. If you haven't subscribed here to the One True Sport YouTube channel, please do like the video. Helps us out in the old algorithm. You guys know how it goes. Can't believe I'm saying algorithm because it just drives me nuts, but it is the truth and it is the reality. So please hit like if you don't mind. Thanks to Tim for his contributions. Thanks to Hazan. Thanks to the boss. Thanks to Michael, Mr. Skinny, and everybody else who joined us live. Appreciate you all very, very much. And yeah, we'll see you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday. This is 1TS Daily live here at One True Sport with Zack Heydorn. Talk to you later. See ya.